Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard the space shuttle. So the good thing is Christoph has thanked everyone and welcomed everyone, so I'm just going to get on with the task at hand. But just to say quickly, it is so very nice to have everyone here with us. Collaborators, friends, supporters, everyone. Okay, now then. I haven't, this image is not kind of captioned, so I'm just going to tell you who it is. This is Guilherme Marconi, a Brazilian artist, and the image is called Matryoshka, and probably reference it later. Remember that a city's name is to that city the sweetest and the most important sound in any language. This tip comes to us via Dale Carnegie, although Carnegie's original version reads, remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and the most important sound in any language. From writers of self-help books, which is what Carnegie is, to philosophical doctrines such as nominalism, the process of naming is powerful. Cities are not very different from persons. And the name of a city is a thing of power, which is why the sweetest sound is often complicated by the white noise of politics. The city is a place of co-production, and when this aspect, and with it the aspirations of certain sections of the city are rubbished away, belonging is put at stake. In my presentation later this afternoon, I'll be presenting twice. I'll be returning to the naming in cities via R&R and the Bombay-Mumbai debate, but for now I speak in relation to belonging. A little less than a year ago, Kana Badosh brought together the exhibition, The Porcupine and the Room, at Delphina Foundation. The exhibition explored the idea of the oozy stuff, the Freudian idea of intimacy. Here we adopt, in relation to draft that is, we adopt the more political lens of belonging and the crisis around belonging, i.e., who can belong to what and how much. A distant reading of the highly differentiated art activities, some already through, some ongoing, and some forthcoming, shored up the subterranean reverb of belonging as a line that runs through it all. In January this year, Teatro Hoho, Helena, and Cuauhtémoc made a related inquiry and many images came upon me, the forum they convened in Mexico City. How does one interrupt the sensational flow of sensationalized images and excavate their patterns that run way deeper than the immediate context of the image, was the question, one of the questions. The Marxist critic Franco Moretti floated the idea of distant reading in order to conduct what he called a planetary reading of the history of the novel. A planetary reading, AKA distant reading of belonging, is as good an idea as any because distance makes belonging grow stronger and more nuanced. Distance also reveals that what we thought was one nested doll is a nest of infinite number of nested dolls. In the collision of political worlds, a stereoscopic view of belonging from the slow, grinding geopolitical time to personal subjectivities is imperative because the crisis of belonging appears to be at the heart of so much, and yet it has crudely been divested of nuances. Describing Darnell Munro, one of the many characters who populate Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt by Chris Hedges and Joe Sacco, they write, he steers clear, he says, of the street violence. Those that do not belong to a gang live without protection. They must dart like minnows through the city streets to avoid predators. I'm sociable, Darnell says, when I ask him about surviving in Camden. But I keep moving. I don't know what to draw. I don't want to draw the wrong kind of attention. I don't want no conflict. In 2011, Sacco and Hedges set out to take a look at the sacrifice zones, i.e., areas in the United States that have been offered up for exploitation in the name of profit, progress, and advancement. In sacrifice zones across the board, belonging is now reduced to gangs. One such very big gang comprises the 53.4% which voted in favor of Brexit. Several write-ups in the aftermath of Brexit have been quick to call this gang xenophobic, bigots, and the like. Just as an aside, this is a Keep Calm and Carry On poster, which is, ironically enough, was a poster produced by the British government in 1939 in preparation of the Second World War. That really is just an aside. Speaking on how the dynamics behind pro-Brexit are now endemic in the West at large, political philosopher Michael Sandel recently said, a large constituency of working-class voters feel that not only has the economy left them behind, but so has the culture, that the sources of their dignity, the dignity of labor, have been eroded and mocked by developments of globalization, the rise of finance, the attention lavished by parties across political spectrum on economic and financial elites, the technocratic emphasis on established political parties. This endemicness, of course, is not just restricted to the West, never was. This paradigm of disenchantment can be found forever and everywhere, democracy notwithstanding. And while in the past there has been denial of this, and this denial unfortunately continues in Mumbai, and again I'll come back to that later, with so much at stake and spiraling out of control, more people are open to indicting neoliberal elites and the inner circles of the left. Commenting on the current state of affairs, the eminently quotable Zizek recently said, "It's a very strange situation. The crisis should be ideal for the left, but it doesn't have any answers." To be fair to the left, I don't think there are any answers. It would be totally suspicious, totally suspicious of someone who said that they had a total answer or idea. In the time since the Mumbai conference, increasingly the idea of dissent itself has been at stake. Dissent that questions the existing hierarchies of belonging is being pushed back by ecologies of fear generated by nervous states everywhere. And this dissent has been at stake because it questions the existing hierarchies of belonging. I already said that, it's a mistake. A close reading of the 9 art activities imagined through draft makes apparent pressing issues such as authoritarianism, xenophobia, nationalism, various forms of violence, migration, etc. If you follow the breadcrumbs on belonging, they'll take you right to these issues, each caused by perplexing patterns of misplaced or spurned belonging. Belonging is about knowledge, and epistemology is about navigation. So naturally, shit hits the fan when you impede this navigation. Over the course of the next 3 days, we'll be taken through artistic encounters that draw the focus back on the more nuanced ideas and forms of belonging. I won't launch into a kind of simplistic roll call of instances of belonging that are at stake in each of these works, because there is no single narrative of belonging. This picture is to me indicative of the complexities of belonging. In geometric terms, belonging could be described as an asymptote, i.e., a straight line that continually approaches a given curve but never actually meets it. Like all reasonable-minded things, belonging is part of the utopian imagination. And the idea of total belonging is total fiction, and yet we must aspire to it. At the time of this forum in Mexico City, I was speaking with a friend who was talking to me through the protests that had been mobilized against the 2014 mass kidnappings of 43 male students from the Ayotzinapa Rural Teachers College who went missing in Iguala, Mexico. in September 2014. The protests were a critical moment in the recent history of Mexico City, but then suddenly things quietened down. When I asked why, said friend simply replied, it was Christmas, and everyone went away home on holidays. And yet such resistance is critical because despite it, it does not fall back on the safety net of total change and instead puts stock on the idea of belonging. I'd like to take us back to the Mumbai conference briefly, and Christoph Schäfer, who unfortunately is not here with us, but with who I share a sense of belonging. He highlighted at the conference, and I quote Schäfer, "We must now develop forms of social agency that don't withhold the payoff until after an imaginary urban revolution. Projects and forms of action must already contain a utopian pulse." As if in response to Schäfer and Raff's agenda of debate is Navid Shop's Renaissance Resistance. This work is actually not very far from where we are. It's in Zurich West, which is just now sort of a site of much contention, speculation, gentrification, what have you. In 2013, the city, I have some really rubbish images, but I can sort of take you through the image once I arrive at that point. In 2013, the city of Zurich wanted to tear down this house, which was constructed in 1893, and build a road in its place, but the residents refused to sell out or leave. As far as this narrative goes, it's an all too familiar narrative in most cities across the world because everything solid melts into air. So what we're looking at here is this house has been standing there, and when they announced that they were going to pull it down, now we wanted to sort of draw attention to this. You see in the far corner there, that's a hotel called Renaissance, right? So as a kind of little intervention, he comes in there and he puts in the word resistance in the same typographic, in the same typeface along the band there. What I also find particularly fascinating about this case is that while the work itself has received a lot of attention, and this instead this resulted in somehow the stalling of this process of demolition, most people don't actually know that Navid has done this work. In the meantime, just recently, the city has won, a road will be built, the house has been hollowed out, and will be torn down sometime during the course of our conference. According to neuroscientist Peggy Mason, who has spent several years researching empathy and her researches reveal that human beings have a biological urge towards caring and that they are naturally inclined to helping each other. Incidentally, I learned about Peggy Mason's work from Sabine Mahmood. Sabine Mahmood died last year. Mahmood was a Pakistani human rights activist and the founder and director of the Karachi-based Cafe's Second Floor, where she hosted a seminar called Unsilencing Balochistan. Balochistan is a province in Pakistan where a separatist uprising has been happening since the 1960s and has resulted in the death and disappearance of over 20,000 people. But the subject is fairly forbidden in the public space in Pakistan. And Sabine was shot right after she left, after the hosting of the seminar, and she died. Mason offers online courses on empathy via neurology. And that's how I somehow got to know of her. Mahmood had signed up for a course, and I plan to follow suit this year. Thank you. Just to mention, this is what the house looks like just now. I mean, it's kind of more hollowed out. And if you were at the ZHDK, there's a fascinating story, a backstory to the house, way fascinating, but I can't get into it just now. But if you were walking past the ZHDK on your way to Ibis, it falls on your right-hand side.